Sage Agasthiyar Mahamuni Prabhuve Namaha. Sister Sumati, you can start now.
Yeah. Thank you, Sister Ranu. Increase in population. Anuradha. If God created human beings, why is population increasing? So Gajaraj Swamigal says, my father, Mahamuni, I place this question at your feet. I request you to enlighten us about this issue. Sage Agastya then says, daughter, you have posed a question to me on behalf of others who have asked you about this. You have a confusion here. You're trying to link the gradual loss of or disappearance of other souls and increase in the population of human souls. The logic seems to be lying on the issue of statistics. It is as if a certain number of souls have been created on the earth, and you presume that mathematically the sum total of souls is the same, except those human souls who have attained salvation. This is not true. You cannot apply statistics in respect to God's creation. We have already told you that souls were the products of the expansion of the supreme consciousness, which you call parabrahman. We cannot apply the known measurements applied in science and technology to this. It is simple. The present science is unable to measure or see the infinite, all-pervading divine energy. Only known objects of matter and energy can be measured and interpreted in terms of science. Spirituality is beyond known form of science. To give you some examples, in scientific terms, you cannot imagine or describe where the universe ends. That is why a simple word called Maya is used in spiritual language. Therefore, there is no equation of addition or deletion regarding the number of souls in the universe. This is what happens. Yeah.
So this is a very important topic because all of us have this question, or most of us do have this question is, you know, a universe was created, there was a X number of souls. Some of them, very few have gained liberation. So why is it that even though the people are dying and the rest are alive, and these people are supposed to reincarnate, somehow the population of the world keeps growing and growing and growing? So that is something we are not able to understand. So that is what Appa Agastya is teaching us right now. He's telling us how exactly look at creation itself. So the next paragraph is very, very important. Go ahead, Sister Smith.
Yeah, sorry. Are you hearing background sounds? No? Children are playing. Okay. So to continue, this is what happens. The ever-expanding parabrahman expels from it a higher form of subtle energy called soul. It is called jivatman, or the individual soul. The soul is present in living and non-living objects. This is what is described in poetry as God is hidden in rocks, thorns, you and me. Meaning, God, which is equated to soul, is present in every form of living and non-living objects. Once again, we express that God is omnipresent. Here the word God also implies the unit of soul liberated from Paramatman or the Absolute. I would suggest that millions of souls continuously liberated from the Parabrahman or Absolute are still waiting to acquire a body.
Again, important. Yeah. In these two paragraphs, we are learning so many different truths, and it is coming from the greatest Rishi of all times. One of the first things we are learning is creation did not just happen at one time, that God came, created all the souls, and it was over. He says creation is a continuous process. That's very, very important to remember, that millions of souls continue to be expelled or liberated or come out of parabrahman. And as we have already talked about it, one of the main reasons that we as humans, we feel we're being liberated is because we want to express and experience, which cannot be done in the state of the absolute, because state of the absolute is beyond duality. For anything to be experienced or expressed, it has to be in the form of duality, where someone expresses, another one experiences. So even for you to experience something, you have to be in the idea of duality. And that is why creation itself. Now he says, the soul is present in every living and non-living object. And this is something that Hinduism talks about all the time, which is there is soul in everything that is created. And he says it's even there in the thorns, in the rocks. Now, if you know, scientists have been doing a lot of work on this. And we have a famous scientist who experimented with plants and understood that plants react to energy. You can talk to plants, be positive, and they grow, or you can be very negative and they start drying up. Then there are scientists in the Western countries who have been experimenting with water, and they had the people be very negative to, and talk harshly to water, and then when they melted it, they froze it and then started melting it. It looked very unformed. It was all jagged. What they could see under the microscope. But when they did the same thing to another pint of water, where they sent loving thoughts and talked lovingly, there were beautiful crystals forming as the water, the ice dissolved under the microscope. So we have in our Puranas where we talk about the Ahalya turning into a rock and the touch of Rama's feet, she comes alive. So see, again, we have to remember that Puranas contain all these important truths that they told in the form of stories, so they could never be forgotten and remembered. But we cannot take most of these Puranas literally. They are giving us these hidden truths, which now Agastya is saying. So again, he also says one more thing. Here the word God also implies the unit of the soul liberated from the Paramatman or the absolute. So in our system where we do the namaskaram, it means my soul bows to your soul. So we are understanding already that we are part of the divine. That is inherent in the very namaskaram that we do. So the soul, which is liberated from the absolute, has everything that the absolute has, because it is part of the absolute. So it's like a drop of ocean, a drop of water from the ocean. So the drop of water from the ocean has the same physical characteristics that the ocean itself has. It is salty and it has the same constituents. So what Appa is saying again is every soul is divine, whether it is a thorn, whether it's an animal, whether it is us, whether it's even a wicked person, everything is the reflection of the Paramatman, the absolute.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sister Anu. Beautiful explanation. So we'll continue now. God, which is equated to soul, is present in every form of living and non-living objects. Once again, we express that God is omnipresent. Here, the word God also implies the unit of soul liberated from Paramatman or the absolute. I would suggest that millions of souls continuously liberated from the parabrahman or absolute are still waiting to acquire a body. You can compare this to a cloud. You do not know when and how much the water drops on the earth in the form of rain. The raindrops also drop or fall outside the earth. Therefore, this planet is not the only planet where Atman takes the form of human bodies.
Beautiful.
In-
One more, two more beautiful things here. And like we talked about, he says millions of souls are continuously liberated from Paramatman. So we understand that creation is a continuous process. Then he also says this planet is not the only planet where the Atman takes the form of human bodies. We have to understand these are words of a rishi, which means he is confirming that there are millions of other planets around us. The universe is so vast, and there are other planets where life exists. This is the confirmation. Science is going to find out. It is trying to find out. They're getting ideas that this is happening. In the United States, they're already talking about UFOs, sightings and all that. But Agastya is very clearly stating here, there is life in other planets. Earth is not the only place where the souls have taken the life form.
Yeah. So in the cosmic creation, the purest form of Atman or the original Atman may acquire any kind of body and not necessarily the human body. It is also possible that cyclical transformation of Atman can occur. For example, Puranas have said that gods and demons alike were born on the earth and took the shape of a human being. Later, they went back to their original form. This also accounts for many avatars. This also accounts for many avatars. The Avatara Purushas lived like ordinary human beings. After finishing their duties, they went back to their original status.
Now, this
Yeah.
again is very important because we already know about the great avatars. There is no doubt about it. Like Krishna, Christ, Buddha, they were all great avatars. But this also suggests or tells us that an avatara Purusha may not even be known popularly or publicly. There are a lot of them who are right now present on the earth because they're all doing part of the divine work of bringing the other brothers and sisters in the world on the path of righteousness, so that they can walk on the spiritual path and understand the final truth that they are part of the parabrahman. They are divine. The soul in them is divine. So we must understand that avatar not it doesn't only apply to those who are known and public and well known and accepted. A lot of avatars come and go, do their duties, but are never known.
Yeah. So you also have legends where a celestial body is punished and made to be born as an animal. You have the story of Ahalya who was converted to stone. Therefore, the human soul can assume other bodies and remain as a stone, animal, or a plant, a spirit, or a god, depending upon which tattva is predominant in it. Tattva means innate nature. So, depending on the karma phala, the human body ends up in different incarnations.
This is truth after truth after truth, layers and layers of revelations. We are all, most of us think that once you're born in a human body, then you cannot go back into any other form of life. That, it's just a progress. And even I thought the same. But what Appa is saying is, it is possible that if a person has a tattva, which is tattva or a nature which is so gross, that he may come back in the form of a lower form of life, like a pig, like an animal, which is is definitely a step back from the spiritual ascension which is required for as a human being. So that is why he says everything that is around us, we must consider them as brothers and sisters. Now, I want to tell you an important, interesting fact, and this is going to be very strange to hear. But my daughter always points out that we had a small dog, and she, every time I got sick, she developed the same kind of sickness. Like I had a bump on my forehead, she had the bump on the forehead at the same place. And if I started coughing, she would cough. And my daughter said, Mom, that dog has taken on a lot of your karmas. And this may never be proved, but I feel that yes, it was a sister soul that came to help me. So when we look at any other life form or inanimate object, we must understand everything is part of the divine. So we must understand that when we hurt it, we are hurting the very soul that lives in us. So what goes out affects everybody because we are all connected. Every soul is connected because we are all of the same ocean. We are all drops of the same ocean. So we will come to the idea of mass karma later, but this idea, if you keep in mind in everything that we do, that will help us progress on the spiritual path.
So yeah, Agasthiyar Muni also says, what I have said so far may be a bit confusing because it is difficult to understand the working of creation and death in terms of science, which is imprinted in the human mind of the present day. Therefore, what is needed is not scientific proof, but acceptance and belief. In short, we can say that the appearance and disappearance of souls cannot be judged in statistical equations. So Anuradha then says, we have always believed that evolution takes place in the form of progressive steps. We believe that the evolution of the soul starts from minerals, moves to the next stage of plants, then to animals, and finally to human beings. How is it possible that a human being can take on an animal or some other form after evolving so much? So Sage Agastya says there are two kinds of evolution. There is organic evolution and there is spiritual evolution. In the first, the Panchabhutas or the five elements develop into various combinations resulting in matter. These include Prithvi, Jala, Vayu, Akasha, and Agni, which in your modern language are called earth, water, air, space, or ether, and fire. These substances develop various kinds of energy, such as attraction and repulsion, yet they do not have life. The energy they contain is collective energy. As they evolve into living organisms, they develop another faculty called Jiva or Atma. Where does this life come from? Here, life is the expression of the Atman. Thus, each individual cell has an Atman of its own. In a complex animal like man, there are millions of cells. If you separate each cell, it lives, which shows that an individual cell has a unit of life. Thus, when a man dies, millions of minute units of life are withdrawn. Collectively, a big unit of life is withdrawn from the human body. Science explains that living things have evolved from non-living organic matters. As you see, each material, each organism is a combination of several things. These are matter, energy, mind, consciousness, feelings, emotions, and the Atman. The minerals have form, which is Sharira. They have energy, but they do not have the other elements. If you think Atman is present in a mineral, it is in a state of deep sleep. Pyramids, for example, have a Sharira, which shape. A pyramid has no mind, but surprisingly, it has consciousness. Because of this, it is possible for a person to appeal to its consciousness and get things to happen. A plant has a form composed of matter and energy. It has feelings, but it has no mind. Animals have bodies made of matter and energy. They have mind and feelings, but lack consciousness. This faculty is present only in humans. Therefore, organic evolution is a gradual increase in the complexity with reference to the body and mind. We
Beautiful.
cannot expect, yeah.
So beautiful, Sister Sumati. See,
I'll just finish this sentence. Yeah. We cannot expect a plant to meditate and reach the supreme because it has no consciousness of its own to understand the methods of understanding the truth. Yeah.
so important because here he's talking about two types of evolution. See, we always mix up everything. We think there's only evolution from one form of state to another, from mineral to plant. That's what I thought. But what he's saying is there are two types: one is spiritual, and one is um, the other type of evolution where matter and energy are concerned. And he's telling us beautifully how, at different stages, different aspects are added to each form of life or object. So, an important thing here is also talking about is the pyramid. I do not know at this point why, but it happens that yes, pyramids do have consciousness. So that is why a lot of people actually have pyramids in their home. There's a very specific reason why the Egyptians had the pyramids built, because they seem to be like strongholds of energy. They become like a batteries, if you may call it. So that again is something we want to understand is when we are talking about, say, crystals or stones or even things like sage, or in Indian context, the samrani, the powder. All these have certain qualities which can be used or used for better purposes by the human beings who have all the faculties. So he says we can appeal to the pyramid. So there is actually a particular group which does what is called pyramid meditation. So we can actually have pyramids and sit underneath it. If you have a structure like that, sit underneath it. And if we meditate, that meditation, the effect of that meditation is multiplied, because the structure of the pyramid for some reason can give that additional strength to the person who's meditating. He also says that organic evolution, which is what we are talking about, is gradual, but spiritual evolution is completely different from this. So we have to make the distinction between organic and spiritual evolution, and that is when we will understand what Appa is saying much more clearly. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, the next evolution is the spiritual evolution. There is no time limit for this. Depending upon the accumulated negative or positive karmas of the past, the evolution can be short or prolonged, involving many thousands of incarnations. There are highly enlightened incarnations, such as Prahalad. They need not have another birth. There are people who become enlightened because of certain shocks. This is sudden, as in the case of Buddha. Others have to increase their good deeds gradually and find release from bad karma simultaneously. One can attain salvation through good karma or good jnana. This is what you see in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan Krishna says one can reach Parabrahma by following different paths, which include Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga.
Once again, important point here: one can attain salvation through good karma or good jnana. So, righteous life again is the foundation of any spiritual path, because once a person is righteous, then everything he does is it starts attaining a purer and purer and purer level. If you understand that the whole universe is an idea of a frequency and energy, then you'll understand that We are all vibrating at different levels of energy. We are vibrating at a grosser level, so we can see all these, the physical forms around us. But the universe itself is just different levels of energy. And that is something we learn as we learn about the different lokas. We think the lokas are one above the other, but no, they're all here, except they're all different frequencies. Whether you're doing a spiritual meditation, or whether you're talking about lokas, you have to continuously think about everything as frequency, like tuning into a radio station. So, and he also says Jnana Yoga can also lead you to salvation. So Vazhipaadu is Jnana Yoga, because in this he's teaching us everything we need to know about creation, about karma, and what life is, so that once we understand, that knowledge starts flowing from within ourselves. We become aware, we become conscious. And as he says, there are karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. Three important, also other three important ways to reach God.
Yeah. So Anuradha poses the next question. Is it possible that an Atman that returns to Parabrahman is once again expelled to go through another cycle? So Sage Agastya says, you have light coming from the sun. You have candlelight in your house. Where does the candlelight go? You can think in this line. The mistake you are doing is once again applying statistics. There is no limitation with reference to Parabrahman. He is beyond the limits of space, time, speed, volume, and weight.
So that brings us to the end of this topic, but that's a very important question. It is something that I have been trying to understand also, what he says when he says, the light is coming from the sun and you have a candlelight in your house. Where does the candlelight go? But the answer lies in the question. So once we reach or become conscious that we are part of the absolute, which is the liberation, our consciousness no longer exists. We become part of the absolute. So once the duality is gone, where then is the idea that I will come back again? I, as a small unit of the parabrahman, how can I be expelled again when I have become part of the parabrahman? It's like a ocean, drop of an ocean goes into the ocean. How can that one particular ocean drop come back again as a soul? That is what Appa is saying in this.
So he means it gets merged. You get merged with the absolute.
And no, there is no longer that individuality of that particular soul, whether it is Sumati or Anu or any other soul. So once you go beyond duality, and that is what it is. It's not like you gain liberation, you go somewhere else. You attain a stage where duality, you're no longer subject to duality. You've understood God. You have become God. You've become part of Parabrahman. So that again is important. You become part of Parabrahman. Parabrahman is not part of you. So as a soul, you go back into Parabrahman. The microcosm goes back into the macrocosm, and you merge. So that particular individuality is lost. So with this, today we end our reading, and I would encourage all of you to continue chanting the mantra, the Ana Ain that we've been talking about, that Agastya has given, which is the Sri Agastishwara Panchakshari Maha Mantra, which is the combination of the Maha Sadoshi Mantra and the Shiva Panchakshari Mantra. It's a very beautiful, powerful combination. I have written a chapter on that, and I will be sharing that on YouTube again. So please sit straight, always sit straight, always meditate in the same area that you meditate. Have no disturbances. Even if it's for 10 minutes, focus. Remember, whether you're chanting a mantra or whether you're just focusing on your breath, intent is very important. And look at everything as intent, energy, frequency, and you will understand that you can go forward on the spiritual path faster when you can connect to a higher frequency, which is the frequency of or the higher consciousness that is prevalent in the great rishis and the gods and the gurus. So bhakti or devotion is a very important part in your meditation because that allows you to connect to that higher consciousness and watch your breath. And if you have any meditation practices that you've already been doing, continue to do that. So we'll just chant Ana Aim once, and then we will end this session today. Ana Aim Ima Kli Ushi So Hevari Oya Shri Om Shri Agastishwara Mahamuni Prabhuve Namaha.